Yo, what is up guys, I'm here hitting you up with a new video. As promised with the poll I did on YouTube, I'm doing a showcase video of the buffed skills now with the new patch, with all the changes going on, and I have to say there were a couple of surprises and there were some big surprises as well. What they changed to with the skills is insane. So actually we have to thank magnifying slashes dark. For those who don't know, I also made a video about what skills you want to pick. You might want to change your decision depending on what you're seeing here in this video, but because of a bug with this skill, they decided to buff all the other skills, which is basically a blessing, because if that didn't happen, all the other skills would still be irrelevant. But there were now some changes which you might want to consider moving forward. I want to start off with some honorable mentions beforehand. Magnifying slashes itself, if you have the gold, the legendary version of it, is still by far the strongest DPS skill for Jinwoo. For example, for the decimation and the iceberg, as well as the commander's touch, these skills got a lot more damage going on, but it doesn't really change too much on their gameplay overall. And as well as the cutting rush skill, they increased the damage, but it didn't change that much for them. I think the biggest letdown, I would say, for these type of skills at least, is the fact that they are lacking a element, and because they do not have an element, that makes them a little bit weaker than other skills overall, because then you could use something where you have an elemental advantage, which you can use. Let's start with my personal top 5 skills, I would say, or top skills to use in general. Vital Strike got a huge buff. Vital Strike is now very good, and the reason why very fast skill animations, while also providing you some sort of utility, and the reason why I rank it the lowest from the changes now is simply because they do not have an element right now. Nonetheless, I want to showcase you at least internal wound. So for my test, I'm doing stage 25, the bear, because that's the stage where I previously did all my skills test overall. It doesn't matter what kind of stage I'm testing these skills, because of the end of the day, I'm just looking at the raw damage output, how many bars are left, and so on and so forth, right? So that's why I'm doing it here, and I always compare it to see like what the reference is. Now for the test itself, what I always do for these skills is I'm getting a shadow step off, do a dash, and then use the skill. That's it. Now I didn't crit. Let's try again. There we go. You saw that? 7.8 million damage. The bear has 22 bars left. That's our reference point. And also now for blessings, the only real blessing that affects anything at all, if it even does, because the bear has like 0 defense penetration, is the bloodlust. Outside of that, nothing really does anything. That's why I put Vital Strike at the last place. You can see the benefits of it. You have utility, you have a defense break, for example, or you have a buff. They all deal similar damage, by the way. Decimate and Internal Wound deal similar damage. Honen deals the most damage out of them. The difference is though, and On Point deals the least amount of damage overall. But the thing is, these two at least give you some sort of utility, Internal Wound and Decimate, while Honen really doesn't do much. And it is element neutral, so you do not get any bonus damage out of it. If it had an element, it would be even greater, and then you could consider using it. But because it doesn't have an element, that's why I rank it the lowest right now. But the really cool thing about the Vital Strike skill overall is that it has very fast animations. Now on my number 4 spot, we have Mutilate Cold Storm. Incredibly increase the damage of that skill. It's now 3200% multiplier, but that's because of my level 19 skill level for that skill, and it deals damage equal to 250% of the user's attack for 3 seconds for 30 seconds, and it has a freeze. Quick spoiler alert, Mutilate Water is now your go-to water DPS skill next to Iceberg, which you use for break. You don't want to use Water Crushing Blow anymore. You want to use Mutilate. Let's see the damage here. Boom. 8.5 million. We got the boss down to 18 bars, and he receives still frost damage, even though don't pay too much attention about burn and frost overall, because these debuffs don't really deal that much damage in the grand scheme of things. Also, Mutilate Water has a good cooldown. It's just 15 seconds, easy to use, and you have a free CC with it. So it allows you to throw out that skill safely. Now for my number 3 spot, we are still with Mutilate, but this time we have Strike. This thing here, I have the legendary version of it, has a 4000% multiplier. I think it would be at 3.5k, probably 3.3k if it wouldn't be the golden version of it. But I level 10 the skill obviously as well, and because it has utility and for the guild boss, right, with the attack decrease and the defense decrease, helps a lot and activates your QT as well. I also think they need to buff his QTs, but it has 15-second cooldown. 4000% multiplier is insane, and you guys know, if you watch the video, we combine it with Multiply, because Multiply stacks up the damage for Mutilate and increases the damage by 20%, stacking up 3 times. So this is a 60% damage increase for Mutilate Strike. Let's see the damage. Now for the first test, we're going to use the skill alone without the real skill. So 10 million, 13 bars left, 13 bars left. You can see how high the damage is. We got 10 million right here. Extremely high damage from Strike. And now the second one is, how we want to do is, we want to get 3 stacks of the double slash first, so we can see how much damage we are dealing when with a 60% damage increase, right? Now we got the third stack, dash, 16.8 million one shot. 3 stacks, the damage increased by 7 million. 7 million damage increase because we got a 60%. And now you can see how accurate it is, because without the 60% buff, it was 10 million. With the 60% buff, it was now 16 million. So you can tell now 60% increase is not just 60% of that value. For example, 4,000, that it is 4,060%. No, it's actually 60% more of that. So this is huge, huge. Now, the reason why I rank it where it is right now is because of the fact that it does not have an element. If Strike had an element, this skill would be insane. Very, very insane. Very, very insane. Maybe in the future they will add a element, but you can tell also from my test, this was the highest damage you can actually get from the skills I will showcase you today, at least. Now for my number 2 spot, we have Vertical Arts Dark Reap, and a honorable mention before I forget it is the Crushing Blow Fire, which I do want to showcase you as well. Let's show off Crushing Blow Fire. Look at the damage here. Boom. 10 million damage with Crushing Blow Fire. I have to say though, it's not a fair comparison, because I do have that skill with the gold version of it, and I have 2 Crushing Blow skills gold, so the multiplier is higher for it. It's level 7 with a 2300% multiplier, but letting you know, they increase the damage insanely up for the fire skill, but you might want to consider using that skill moving forward next to maybe a skill like Decimate, or as a replacement for it, depending on how you look at it, just because they increase the damage so highly and has multi-hits, which does make a huge difference and can work for you even better. Now let's take a look at the Vertical Arts Reap. For this skill, to utilize it, we have to counterattack, and I think I didn't see the damage. Let's retry it again. So the beauty about the skill is you get the full damage out of it when you counterattack. And it is also good because of the fact that we need some sort of invincibility frames, and we need fast skills moving forward, because there's a lot of things going on nowadays, and we cannot use skills anymore which take too much time to use. Now let's take a look at it again, because it is quite hard sometimes. So for crits, it was roughly 9 million, around that line. But the beauty about the skill, so he's almost dead. That's the only weird thing with Reap's skill. The boss has roughly 30 million. So with that skill, we dealt around 11 to 12 million damage. With the counterattack, with the crits, which you cannot really see 100% because it's a little bit iffy. But the beauty why I'm showing you that is my number 2 spot right here is because if you time it correctly, get a counter hit, it's extremely powerful, and you can use it, for example, for the story stages where there are a lot of mobs, helps you a lot with AoE. It's a very good dark AoE skill, which is meta right now as well. Does a lot of damage, help me out clear hard mode, and is also fast, has some utility with shield and stun. And also what you cannot forget while doing all these tests is the fact that we are doing it on a neutral element stage. So whatever damage you see from these elemental skills, when you use them on where you have dark advantage or fire advantage or water advantage, these numbers are even higher moving forward. Now, one last honorable mention I have to say is the dagger toss detonation. If you do that skill, it's very fast and does a lot of damage. It now has, the boss has 26 bars, but I saw that damage even stronger. I probably didn't crit anything. I can get with this skill, can get him down to like, I saw 15 bars, 16 bars, somewhere around that area. So around the 10 million damage area per se. Also very good damage, especially because that skill is very fast, as you can see. But now let's talk about my number 1 skill from this patch, which I personally like the most from the changes, and that is Dagger Toss Electric Shock. They increase the damage of that skill immensely. Really, it's insane how much they increase it. It's now 2600% multiplier if you have it at skill level 19 right now, obviously. And the electric shock deals damage equal to 300% of the attack. If you have the legendary version of it, this has now a 600% attack multiplier, and it goes up to 3.5k or something. I wish I had the golden version. I only have the purple version. I mean, nonetheless, I want to showcase you that skill and why it is so beautiful, and is now my go-to light DPS skill moving forward instead of Sonic Stream. Let's check out the damage. We dash, shadow step, get the buff, and use that skill, and we got him down to 33 bars. And then you have these electric shocks that also did 4 bars of the bear. And then you can see there's even more going on. There's even more going on. The reason why this skill is now so beautiful, and you might ask, the damage isn't even as good as the other skills, for example, I showcased earlier, is because Dagger Toss has 2 advantages the other skills do not have, and they're unique advantages. So first of all, the beauty about that skill, even though it does not have in comparison the highest damage, maybe, the thing is that skill has only a 10-second cooldown and does decent damage, and it has electric shock, which deals additional damage over time, and you can use that skill more often than not. The second thing about the skill is that the skill animations of it are very fast, and you can also attack from a safe distance. It has range. Like Jinwoo has barely skills where you can attack from a safe range. I would say from here I can even, that was a little bit too far, but it is a decent mid-range skill overall. So around, I think around here you can hit the enemy, you deal decent damage, and you do not have to be up their asses to connect that, but you have a little bit of range distance to save yourself. And now for the number 1 reason why the skill is so damn good as well, next to all the stuff I just showcased you, is if you use that skill, you inflict electric shock. What electric shock does is when you look, for example, at the bear, we have to wait. Let me connect one more time so you can actually see what happens. Is when you use that skill, it actually, you see that? You see these ticks, how he's a little bit stun locked. This is the beauty about electric shock. These electric shocks you apply to the bear or any other enemy give you little stuns. So when they do not have super armor, you basically get a 3-second stun on the enemies where they cannot do anything, because these electric shock ticks block them from taking their actions. The only time these electric shocks work perfectly is when they do not use a skill in the moment. So it does not work as a sort of skill interruption. That does not work. But when they are not using a skill, as you can see here, so when they're mid animation, the electric shock doesn't affect or interrupt their actions. But when they are queuing in their next animation, this is where you can actually stun them and block them from moving, except they activate their super armor, and that is huge. It has great damage, it has range, it has these electric shock little CC stuns, which you can use to your advantage. I discovered one more skill. It's a secret, my very secret #1 skill no one used ever. And this skill does so much damage. It's not even funny anymore. It's not as strong as dark as the magnifying slashes when you have the gold version of magnifying slashes, but that skill is the second most damaging skill in the entire game. I do want to make a extra video for that because this video takes a lot of time already to record. If you want to see an additional video about this, let me know in the comments down below, and as well as if this video can hit, let's say, 50 likes, I will make a video. So that's it for today's videos, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like in the comment down below. I really appreciate it, and see you with the next one. Deuces.